We are live.
Cool.
Take it away, Chris.
Hey, everybody over on the YouTube channel. We're here at the Makers Mob. You're kind of going to see the behind the scenes, what we normally do, these lives that are usually only available to Makers Mob members. And it's pretty cool. And today we're going to be talking about my secret drawer jewelry box that you've probably seen the video of. Hopefully you've seen the video of it. And there's a cool promo. If you sign up, it's a really nice discount right now. And if you sign up to the Makers Mob, you'll also get plans for that. You have to do it by Friday by midnight, but you get a free set of plans. And the other awesome thing about the Makers Mob, a lot of my other plans are probably going to get added there pretty soon. We're just working on that. But there, like Samurai Carpenters, Jimmy Duristas, Past Makes, a lot of different people have awesome plans and all sorts of really cool resources. There's a community where you can talk on there. It's a really, really cool thing. I'm super excited to be of the Makers Mob and joining these awesome people that I look up to personally as well, and just doing some awesome woodworking and cool stuff. So I'll turn it back over to Adam, and he's kind of the host of these, and you'll kind of get a sense of how things work, and they're a lot of fun. So
awesome. Thanks so much, Chris. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Adam Henkel, and I'm a co-founder of Makers Mob. I'm also the Samurai Carpenter's brother-in-law, so that's kind of my connection here. The better-looking family member. Best.
I hear he's a better woodworker too.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I host these lives like Chris was saying, and so it's. We're actually live right now on the Makers Mob YouTube channel, as well as obviously Third Coast Craftsman's channel. And then we're also live in a Facebook group as well. So if you're in any of those places, thanks for joining us. We're super excited to have this. One thing I did want to mention as you're talking about things in the Makers Mob is something cool that we have coming up with Neil Paskin from Pask Makes is the Kamiko Challenge that's coming up. That's also something, if you sign up for the Makers Mob, you can get in on. This challenge is registration closes on June 13th at midnight, and then we're going to start the following week. Pretty much with that challenge, Neil is going to walk you through how to prepare all of your pieces, how to make the jigs necessary to do the Kamiko panels, and then we're going to also incorporate a final project that will you'll use the actual Kamiko panels in that final project. So it's going to be a really cool community thing that we're going to do together and walk through it all together. And right now, if you sign up, you're going to get the 75% off your first month, which is the promo that we got in the link in the description. So enough about that. We're here to talk to this man, and we're excited to do that. Later on, after we talk about this project, we're not going to go we're not going to talk about the whole project. We're going to just talk about different elements of the project. If you want to see more of that, Chris has full tutorials and plans available, and you can get those. There's a link in the description, I believe, for that as well. Mm-hmm. We're going to touch on a bunch of different things, and then afterwards, we are going to do a Q&A period. We're going to actually have some members of the Makers Mob. We're going to pull on screen with us, and they're ready to go live with us to ask some questions to Chris. And then we'll also give you guys opportunity in the chat to ask questions as well. So Chris, let's get into this. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So this project, let's pull it up here. So I've got a video that we'll be kind of talking over a bit, but why don't you talk a little bit about kind of the inspiration behind this, why you made it, how you designed it, and kind of give us the backstory of this project.
Yeah, so some of you may be familiar with this event called, shoot, I just forgot the name of it. Workbench Con. Yeah, it was like the third year of it. I had gone to it every year. It's kind of like this convention where woodworking and making YouTubers and even other people that aren't necessarily doing a channel. You see a lot of Instagram people and different things like that. They all get together, and it grew and grew and grew. Anyway, well, Rockler was one of the companies there, and they're a company that I've worked with on some different projects. And they came, when I was talking to them, they wanted to do a jewelry box. They gauged whether or not I'd like to do a jewelry box project for them. and feature a new epoxy and do a live edge like top for it. So that's why it has the live edge river top. I've done a handful of epoxy things. I'm not really, I don't love using it. It does look pretty cool, but it's kind of been played out a little bit at this point. But that's why it has that live edge epoxy top. But I do like it. I think it looks pretty cool. But that's kind of the whole basis of where the project idea started. And me being me, I always like sit down and try to be as creative as I can, come up with something that's new and challenge myself. And just have fun with projects when I make them and design them. And so I just kind of looked around at some pictures of different jewelry boxes to kind of get some dimensions that are commonplace, since I don't really know much about jewelry boxes and my wife doesn't really have one like this. So kind of got some dimensions and started sketching up in the airport on the way home from that convention. I started kind of sketching this idea. I first came up with the idea for I got mine here too, the sliding little swing wings there. And I kind of came into my attention or I was thinking, well, if I have these swing out like this, I can't have a side on this box up here. So I thought, I'll have to have some kind of supporting thing in the middle there. And just one thing led to another, where I kind of like to come up with crazy things. If you watched any of my videos, this really cool mechanism that the bottom drawer here doesn't have any pulls, and it's recessed in there, and pretty much unless you're banging it and flipping it upside down, you can't really get that drawer open. So I created this little lever, this little mechanism. So this actual support divider here is riding in some dovetails that I cut into the top and the bottom, and there's a little release mechanism at the back that pushes it and kicks out that bottom drawer, and then when you push the drawer back in, kicks that little mechanism. So that's kind of how I came up with that idea, that the brand came to me. And that's always a cool way, is if they have an idea and you can kind of flex your creative juices and come up with something, and it's a win for everybody. And my wife likes it, so.
Yeah, exactly. That's the biggest win of the whole thing, right?
That is always a big win. I
yeah.
gave her another big win and built her a chicken coop, which I didn't want to do, but you gotta get happy.
Hey, you gotta do some of the things. I just finished renovating my basement, and I didn't want to do that either.
Oh yeah, not fun.
So maybe while we're just getting going here, you want to give a little bit of kind of what's been going on lately, just a brief catch up before we kind of get too far into this?
Yeah, I've gotten to about 90% done, 99% done with the shop, and it's just so hard to finish. I don't know, like a lot of people. I did one of my windows the other day. I trimmed one of my windows out, but I still have 6 more and 3 doors to do, and they chew up a ton. It's cherry, kind of that Craftsman style, but it chews up a ton of wood, and I got to go get more, and it's just not. I've been dragging my feet on that. And I finished that. I've been working a lot on the chicken coop. It was a really big project and really expensive, as everybody knows. Lumber prices, especially building materials, are through the roof.
Yeah. And
honestly, now that it's just beautiful in spring here, I had such a stressful winter building this shop and just going and just COVID and everything, that I've just kind of been enjoying the property a little bit, mowing the lawn and trimming trees and messing around, like filling up bird feeders, walking on the river, fishing a lot, stuff like that. So I do need to kind of get back in the saddle and start making things. I have a really cool kind of TV console that I'm going to be building, and it's heavily Japanese inspired. I hope Jesse likes it because I know he's a big Japanese fan like I am. But it's a heavily Japanese inspired thing that I've been sketching on and trying to work out some really cool joinery things. And it'll be very similar kind of elements to my bookshelves, with like kind of the through tusk shelves. And I'm going to do a really cool breadboard top that's a split top and has breadboard on the ends, and they're going to be carved so they have that little Japanese sweep line. Yeah. Don't know how I'm going to do that, but it's going to be hopefully really cool if it turns out. But I'm getting into something again,
I can't wait to see it. I'm sure everybody else can't wait to see it. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So is that kind of your next kind of your get back in the saddle project?
Definitely. Yeah. I'm going to be starting that on probably be picking up lumber for it tomorrow or the next day.
Nice.
And there's a gentleman coming out that reached out to me who will be here Monday and Tuesday and filming a little bit of that. He's doing like this woodworking documentary, and he's going to be covering everything from, he's going to be talking to some forestry and arborist people and talking about wood, and then some milling operations, and kind of like following this whole journey of lumber.
Nice.
He's a filmmaker that fell in love with woodworking, and so he's trying to do this documentary, and he's going to do a stop here and film me doing a little bit of woodworking. And so I'm excited to see what that looks like at the end of the day. That little project, however long that takes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exciting to get an insight on what's actually going on and coming up. I mean, I can't wait to see that project. It's going to be good.
Thank you.
As far as this project here, speaking of how long that's going to take on that last project, how long did this project take you to do, kind of from start to finish? I know that's always a question you probably get on stuff, and it's varies.
And I'm super inefficient. I see Jeff Branch. He's I'm looking at I can see the comments on the side, and I'm trying to keep up. The one, Jeff Branch, he's actually the guy that does my plans for me after I.
Okay.
So Jeff, I got to publicly apologize to the god awful sketches and numbers I always send you. Send him like chicken scratch doodles, and he turns them into beautiful, beautiful plans. So he's awesome. I'm glad to see him. But this project and this was one that Jeff did an amazing job on. This was like, he even has the grain matched continuous quarter sawn oak like on the plans that he somehow like superimposed. It's amazing. But this project took, it probably took me a month. It's not a month of 40 hours a week just on it, but it took me over the course of a month to complete it, doing different things. It's a ton of head scratching. I spend a lot of times when I'm building a project like this, just sitting there, scratching my head, doodling stuff out, trying to figure out how I can make something like that mechanism work, and playing with proportions and trying to make, the thing look nice and work functionally and be solid and all that kind of stuff.
Are you, I mean, I know how, I'm very familiar with the Samurai Carpenter and how Jesse kind of goes about it. Are you kind of like, you sketch it out and then you start to create and you change on the fly based on how it feels, and that, is that how and then you send the sketches and dimensions off to get the plans made after, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And
I wish I could.
Go ahead.
I was saying, like, one skill that I really want to work on and learn is how to draw in 3D. And luckily, a lot of my stuff turns out proportionally and looks pretty good for the most part. But I'm always sketching like 2D face on, or the sides, or up and down, and you don't ever really get a good grasp of what it really will look like in a room like that. Luckily, they have turned out, but I really wish I could sketch like angular in 3D. But
you gotta get into SketchUp. It's actually not that hard.
I know, I've dabbled with it a few times, and these days I pay for a membership subscription that I never use, so I should probably.
I'm sure we all have tons of those. I know I do.
Yeah.
So let's get kind of into different aspects of this project. The first thing, I mean, in the video, you're showing just preparing the lumber, and I'm assuming that it's the size of the project. It will turn in just a second. We're still showing off this piece, but because of the size of the project, that you kind of prepped everything with hand tools, like you use that like a plane to actually flatten the face of it, what it looks like, and the edges, and square everything up. Is that normally what you would do? On a smaller project, you mean? Yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna fly around me. I usually don't dimension. I always edge joint,
But a lot of times I'll have everything like, pretty much dimensioned to thickness and one side ripped, and then joint that edge. And then I'll usually, because where I get my lumber from, Johnson's, and they offer those services where you can, fill your stuff. It's, there's still like milling marks and stuff on there. Mm-hmm. So we'll hit them with a hand plane to smooth it beautifully. And that usually will give you the nicest finish when you apply a finish, like a natural finish. Your pores will be completely open. There won't be any grain in there from sanding and things like that, or dust in the grain. But I usually will always touch all 4 surfaces with the plane, but I'm not like dimensioning them. I'm just kind of like cleaning the wood up and jointing an edge.
Yeah. On a larger project, is it the same approach, or do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Yep.
Okay.
I just don't I love using hand tools, and I love cutting all my joinery with hand tools, and where I think it really challenges me, and I feel the most kind of pride when I can accomplish some joinery and stuff with the hand tools. But I just don't enjoy like dimensioning wood and ripping up an entire board down, an 8-foot board with a handsaw. I just don't, even though I do this full time, I still don't have unlimited time to do this. So I want to get through a lot of those mundane processes with power tools and get down to the actual like woodworking, the joinery stuff.
At this point in this video here that we're looking at here, you're cutting these pieces, you're cross-cutting, and then you're going to be labeling them for the grain match.
Yeah.
During this process, as you're like ripping these, how do you feel? Like, are you nervous about like screwing this up? Because if you screw the one up, then it kind of messes the whole thing up, or like, what is your thought process through that?
I wasn't really nervous too much on those. You definitely got to think about what you're doing, but I don't even remember. So
are those the drawer? Those are the fronts?
Yeah, and the sides.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be those small pieces will make that. There's probably about 6 of them I cut, which will be these, and then the sides here.
Yeah.
And then you have a continuous one across the front. It's definitely a challenge to make that all out. And then this long one across here. And I had to remember to cut instead of, because if this is my one edge, typically you would start your edge of this board with that. But I had to remember to cut like a 1/2 of an inch off each end so that the grain continuously matches. So there's a little bit of, you probably couldn't even seen what I was talking about.
I get it. I'm pretty sure people do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've done stuff like this in the past, and I just feel like when you're working with stuff where, in this case, you've planned it all out, and then you go to actually cut that piece of wood apart. I feel like I always have a little bit of nerves in me, like okay, got to go really careful with this.
Early on, I get that way more with finishing a project always.
Like assembly?
No.
Actual finishing.
Yeah, I always get that way. I always am. And that's why I'm pretty stuck on really easy wipe-on finishes, because most of my stuff's pretty complicated too. And there's always like nooks and crannies and things like that, or the wipe-on stuff. Easy.
Yeah, much easier.
Yeah.
So this section, let's talk a little bit about the dovetails. Is this the most challenging part of the project for you, or let's just talk a little bit about that.
On this one, I think hand cut through mortise and tendons are a little bit harder because which I don't really have. I actually do have some, I guess, on the inside of the drawer, but they're pretty small. Yeah, I should have probably got all this out of here. Sorry, honey. I'll fix this later. Yeah, I think through mortise and tendons are a little tougher because you have to like perfectly transcribe stuff around, and a lot of times I use So I would use this piece, this little centerpiece, to actually lay out my my thing, and it's just, I don't know where I'm going with that, but it's challenging, I think. But dovetails, yes, they're always hard. This has some blind ones on the front, half blinds, and then yeah, they're always pretty tough.
I mean, you're essentially, yeah, you cut close to the line and then you sneak up on it with that kind of worried tension that we were talking about, not to go past your lines, right?
Yeah, you definitely don't go past your line. And one thing that I've practiced over the years, and it's something I kind of ran into. It might have even been oh geez, man, my brain's gone. Just the idea of, like, you know, cutting to your line and not having to go in with a chisel. So I've practiced that, and when I'm cutting dovetail stuff, I'm always trying to cut to my line. Is little, you know, you just take your time and you have a really fine saw, and have good mechanics and practice. I like cutting to my lines and not cleaning up on dovetails, not having to clean up with a chisel. I feel like you can run into, the more you're in there screwing around, the more you're gonna dent an edge or blow something out. So I really try to always cut to the line, and for the most part, it requires just very little chisel cleanup.
I want to bring this up because this comment I have on this here is not the woodworking, but the actual camera shot. So you've got fast motion, but you're actually like panning around. How did you do that?
I just have a slider.
Yeah.
And it's about 4 feet long, and you can set it so it's like moving super slow.
Yeah.
So that thing like moving like it's about 1 millimeter per second, and it's just like ticking along very slow. And over the course of cutting a board, you know, all the cuts for that dovetail on that board, that might have taken me maybe like 2 or 3 minutes, and it just perfectly works out that I can speed it up for this really cool fast pan thing. And
so it's the time lapse with that slow pan.
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
track.
I like doing stuff like that with that slider, and I look forward to doing a lot more creative filming as well, because I've really kind of slacked a lot in the last year or so working on this shop. But now that I'm back in here and I've kind of designed this to be dynamic for filming and have like some nice cool backgrounds and shadows, that I want to do some really nice cool shots like that again.
Yeah, that it just stood out to me as I was like, look at that shot. The next thing that I wanted to touch on. Okay, so do you have any other tips or advice? And if you guys, again, have questions, we'll get to question time in a bit. So save those in the chat to pop those in a bit. But any other advice to guys who are like, I know a lot of people kind of hesitate or are kind of scared of jumping in and doing dovetails. It might be a bit intimidating.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you would say to those guys?
It's, you know, layout is super important. Use a marking knife and use a marking gauge. I see all sorts of like tips or like people putting tape and stuff on. I've never tried anything like that. I like to go as quick and easy and as possible. Like I said, I try cutting to my line and not spend much time in there. It's just time. It's just going to take a little bit of time and practice. And if you just really go slow and always watch, you know, up and down on both sides of your saw where your saw's cutting, and, you know, get a decent saw like these Gaokucho or Susan Japan saws are like $40, $50, $60, and they're so nice. They cut so well and do such a good job that they do a really good job. You just got to practice a little bit and just get the feel of things. It's time behind the wheel with a lot of things.
Exactly.
Definitely don't ever like shy away from challenging yourself on any kind of joinery. Your first ones might not be good. Yeah, they might not be good. You might have some gaps and some things, but it's something to remind you later on down the road how far you've come. I have a lot of stuff that I did early on that's you know, kind of embarrassing, but that's just the learning process. It's fun. It's nothing to be ashamed of. So feel free to make mistakes and grow from them. And, you know.
Well, there you go. If you guys are hesitating on doing dovetails, that's your inspirational talk of the day.
You know that little kid that just got done riding his bike, that little video, he's like, "You can do it, everybody." He just like, it was so funny. I wish you had that to input right there.
Okay, so the next part of the project that I wanted to talk about, obviously, is that secret latch. This is the dovetail key that you're doing here. Why don't you talk a little bit more about this? And I want to know, like, how much trial and error there was on making this.
I don't know if there was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of really in-depth head scratching, and then I just kind of was able to, you know, I knew I needed to make my centerpiece first, and I'll bring this over to this piece first, and then I could just kind of and I drew a from like this edge. If you were looking, I kind of drew that mechanism out on a piece of paper, and like clearances, like to scale. This is a relatively small little thing, so I was able to kind of draw those things to scale, and surprisingly, it worked really well. The first, you know, there's a little bit of fitting. I had to sand that little piece, that little angular piece that does the mechanism a little bit, and do just a little bit of cutting to that piece. But obviously this should be what it is. It's it needs to be that distance and have 2 dovetails on it. So that's pretty simple, and it has like kind of a known back end to it. Kind of see it in there, but
I can pull up here and I can kind of see a bit in the video. So essentially it's like a little divider that's got dovetail on top and bottom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's pull you up big. I don't know, yeah. Okay.
So there's that little mechanism back there, and it's pinned in this middle shelf. There's a little brass pin that goes through that little, it kind of is the shape of a boomerang. So right now it's forward and pushing this thing forward, and it's flat against the back of this bottom drawer back there. You can only see the top half of the little boomerang there. And then when you push it, it pushes that little boomerang and kicks the heel of it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think on my Instagram page, I have, while this thing is relatively, the back's not on or something, I show that mechanism working. You get a really good look of it. And you might in the video too. I don't know if you have that or not.
Yeah, right here, it kind of shows you, here's you drilling that little piece out. You've got that pin that you're putting through. You're going to chisel that into that shelf. And then you do show it working here.
Yeah, one thing I wasn't certain of here is whether I needed to capture that pin, but it was a nice snug fit, and gravity just kind of holds that thing in place, so it's not even captured or glued in there. It just kind of works in there.
Yeah, that's. So when you made this thing, like how many times fitting that? Like, was it like first go? You're saying like it worked? And
no, I had to. The trick with that, the dove. Because normally I would make a sliding dovetail a really nice tight fit, because it structurally needs to resist pulling apart and everything like that. But that needs to be really kind of nice and loose, so you get that nice little kind of tactile. It's firm, and then it pops and opens that bottom drawer. But so I actually had to cut that quite a bit loose and keep making that looser and looser. So it's actually really, really wobbly. It's not necessarily having to hold that this box together.
Yeah.
It's really supporting it in compression more than anything.
Yeah.
It can be loose, and I think in my I explained that in my tutorial videos or something, which I'm still finishing some of those up for people.
So the next part of this build, I think that's a genius part of the project, by the way, like to come up with that and to see it through and to actually have it like fully functional and work. And it looks awesome.
I love that. I played with that thing so much, and yeah, I was like on cloud 9 when that worked. I was like, I thought it was so cool.
Now the base here, it's not fixed. You can pull that out at the end of this, right?
Yeah, I wanted to, so I have the back screwed on and I have the base screwed to the back because I wanted to make sure I could get back in there and access that mechanism if anything goes wrong, if it breaks or if it does pop out or something like that. So that's why I built this little stand for that to fit in nice and perfectly, and then but it's actually held to it with a couple screws.
Okay. I like, why do I keep doing that? No, this is not what we're doing yet. Sorry about that. It's technical difficulty.
That's all right.
I like that. So one of the things that as this video lags a bit, when you clamp that base together, how you clamped it, trying to find it here. You clamped it with the actual jewelry box assembled in place in that stand, like you can see in this, right? Yep. So it's like fit perfectly tight inside there.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. The hardware on this was from Rockler, I think you said in your video.
Yep.
It's a nice close-up shot.
Oh yeah, gotta get the macro lens out every once in a while.
This, I think, under your YouTube video with this, you can find links to all these products and stuff that you use, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Assembling this thing looks pretty straightforward, but I mean, like all glue ups, it's a race against glue setup and that.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward though.
I'm trying to remember. I think the bottom drawer was tricky. Because you kind of got to make sure you have all the pieces going in the right order so that they, because you have a bunch of Morrison tendons on the inside that, you know, if you go in the wrong order, you won't actually be able to get that together. So I had to like practice dry fit and remember like, okay, do this first, do that. And everything else was, I think, pretty good. I love the assembly, and it's always just the best part. Everybody knows that though.
I get giddy when I'm assembling things. It's
especially when you got a lot of joinery, this interlocking, that just makes it so much fun.
Yeah, and then the finish on this was, I think, was that a Watco oil?
Yeah, it's probably. It looked like it was probably just Danish oil. I used a lot.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's just a good old fashioned. I'm not a big fan of gloss and stuff, and so it usually works pretty good. You can put like a waxy, like a satin type wax over top of it, and it just feels really, really nice and soft too.
This is
the full actually assembly of this thing. Am I using the right word there?
Yeah, assembly.
Was actually another. It was kind of, you had to like make sure you did it in those right steps. You know, like there I had to do this first and then slide the top assembly onto the dovetail.
Yeah.
Oh, it was fun. I love that kind of stuff.
We're kind of wrapping up, kind of going over this project and touching on what we're going to touch on. So we've got a number of Makers Mob members who are kind of sitting in the waiting room live here with us. We're going to start to bring them on. We're going to start with these guys are listening in the waiting room. Let's start with Kevin. We're going to go live with Kevin here. Kevin McCann. I'm going to bring him on in just a second. Beautiful project. Kevin, if you have any questions for Chris, let's bring you on. Here's Kevin. Kevin, tell us where you're from and shoot your question at Chris here.
Cranbrook, BC. So I'm another BC, about as far away from Adam as you can get in the province, though.
Oh, wow.
First, Chris, thanks for taking the time to talk to all of us here tonight.
Oh, it's my honor, man.
Project like this jewelry box and that are such an inspiration. It's a beautiful and functional project, man. Really nice.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. One of the things that I saw when you were when I watched the video on that was the spline jig that you used. It was just such a simple jig. So many of them are so convoluted and crazy and whatnot. And I saw that and I went, I got to know, how did you make that jig? Because it looks like it would be really easy jig for anybody to put together so they could add that to their mitered joints.
That's super funny because I am like the worst about jigs. I eventually want to get more jigs, but I have like literally a crosscut sled, and that's like my only jig, I think. And so when I was doing something like this, splines, which I've never done before, I thought about maybe hand cutting them. I was like, you know what, I'll just make up a jig, and I'll have to go back and look at the video. I think I just ripped a 4x4 in half on a bandsaw or something. Were they two 4x4s?
It looked like 4x4s or 2x4s with a miter just on a piece of melamine that was
just
sitting there.
Yep, it's about as jankety as you can do. And I just glued them up, and they weren't in a T-track either, so I just had them riding against the fence, which is not as safe. You know, there's that risk that they could come off the fence, and it was more of a lazy jig than a good jig, I would say.
Well, sometimes simple is better, right? So
yeah, definitely.
And it did the job. So. And
I don't have it anymore. I just kind of used it, and it's gone. When we moved shops and everything, I think it got left behind.
Okay. I have one other question for you in that, which I think you will enjoy. Last summer, I restored a number 15 Stanley that belonged to my wife's grandfather. Awesome. So I think you'll appreciate that.
I do. I do.
And it cuts great, but no matter what I do with regards to setting it up, I get wood stuck between the chip breaker and the iron. I've flattened the back of the iron. I've flattened where the chip breaker touches the iron. I just can't seem to get it to not get plugged up there, which means then having to take everything apart and then setting it back up again before you can go. So, you have any tips as a person who's restored a bunch of planes?
When you flatten the back of the chip breaker, did you have like the heel of the chip breaker? So here's the front edge of the
tipped it up so that the part that would be touching would be parallel, kind of thing.
Well, you want to make sure you're tipping the back down. Are you doing
back
that
down? Oh yeah. So that makes the part that touches the iron be perpendicular to the iron, right? Is what we're looking for.
Yeah, you want to kind of like undercut it a little bit. Yeah. I'm just gonna grab a blade really quick.
Sure.
Hold on.
Kevin, that's looks like you've done some nice grooming.
Yeah, like I said yesterday when we were talking, I had to clean up for everybody. So
you're probably talking about the same thing, and this is this is an aftermarket one. I just grabbed whatever. So the blade iron here, you want to have this when you're flattening it tilted back down so that you almost like back cut, and only the leading edge will be touching. You definitely don't want to be flattening it like this. You want to be flattening it like that.
Okay.
If that's what you were doing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I did, because it sort of, mine is one of the older ones with a bit of the hump. Yeah. Right. So I dropped it down so that the hump was sort of riding over the edge of the stone.
Perfect. Yeah.
So that I could get that angle on the bevel and that for the part that's going to touch the iron. So. And
then after I make sure that's really flat, well, put your blades together and check and light and double.
Nothing.
And no gap. The one last thing you can do is, if this is your stone, you want to like blunt the front of this just a little bit up to about 80 degrees or so.
Okay. That's something that I haven't tried, was taking rounding off.
If you have like too sharp of a point, and like, so if this is my my stone here, and I have this thing, I would kind of do one of these numbers to slightly round and blunt the front edge of that, so that when chips come off the front edge of that blade, they're instantly hitting that little bit of a blunt thing and breaking over. It might just be too, I don't know.
Well, I would say, if anything, mine is sort of square up there, at the leading edge of the chip breaker, versus being sort of rounded and that.
Yeah,
so
maybe rounded a little bit.
Yeah.
And more of an acute angle back a little bit, so that it's not like hitting that chip breaker edge and trying to dive down and force its way under. And make sure your lever cap's nice and tight.
Yep.
Okay. If I could see the plane, maybe I would be able to find something, but I don't know. It sounds like you got it right.
Well, I would say, Kevin, try just that round over, and then post it in the Makers Mob community too, and I'm sure you'll get some more feedback if that doesn't help you out. So awesome. Thanks, Kevin, for joining us.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin. It was nice talking to you.
You too.
We're gonna bump you off, and we're gonna bring Lyle on with us. Lyle is another Makers Mob member. Lyle, how you doing, man?
Good. Can you
Hey,
hear me?
Lyle.
We can hear you. Yeah, we can hear
You
you.
didn't want to try that last name, Adam?
It's yeah.
Carmignani.
There you are.
Carmignani. That sounds like you own an Italian restaurant.
Yeah, extremely Italian. What I was going to ask about, typically when I see people do hand-cut dovetails, on the pins, they keep the base of it very dainty so that it's super clear that it was done by hand and not by a router. Was there a reason why I mean, it seemed from the video that it looked like it was maybe almost a 1/4 inch at the base, but I can't tell, it's so hard. Was there a reason for that?
I think just aesthetics on this one. I wanted to. I'm a big fan of Mike Pekovich, you know, and he doesn't do. Yeah, sometimes people do. They do very, very thin dovetails, and that does look really good sometimes. And sometimes they look good like that. The way they're spaced, I guess you could probably do those with a router jig, but. And I have done some really, really fine dovetails before too. I guess it's just kind of the mood I'm in and what I'm building, and aesthetically the whole picture, what I think kind of looks good. I got a whole sketchbook of different dovetail, like, like a couple really close together on the end of the drawer and like the middle. Like I've played around with all sorts of things, and it's just kind of fun. That's kind of one of the cool things about them. They're a design element as well as structural that you can really get creative with, and it can do a lot to a project. Sure.
I was also thinking about those splines. How did you do that just for decoration, or was it for strength? And if
Definitely
it is
strength.
for strength, how big a drawer would you do that and not use a dovetail?
The only reason I didn't do dovetails on these, well, I thought about maybe doing dovetails on all this stuff, but the orientation of the bottom of the box and how it's a box surrounding that drawer, and you have dovetails horizontally. And if I would have done dovetails for these, they would have been going in a different direction. And it would just, I thought it was going to get tacky, because sketches, I had them all sketches, like, I'm not feeling it. So instead, I just want to do that's continuous grain. And I decided to add some splines and add just a touch of color to match the base. So, and you can get tacky with splines like that too. And it's all personal taste, but it was definitely to help with structure because they're mitered. And I wouldn't ever build drawers with splines or miters. I kind of only did that because I needed to here.
Okay.
I talked to that guy earlier. I didn't even have a spline jig. Something that I don't have against them. I just prefer other things, I guess.
Yeah, I've seen people use splines and use a dovetail router jig, and then they hammer in a wedged piece.
Yeah.
And it looks like a pin on each side then,
Yeah.
It looks real good, though. I think you did a good
And that
job.
would be really strong, too. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Another question, if we have time.
Yeah, one more question's fine. Yep.
On the bottom compartment, you have on the sides, you have the grain on the upper compartment and the drawers matching as far as going horizontally.
Yeah.
Then the bottom compartment, you have the grain on the sides going vertically.
Yeah.
What was the thought of that?
Just because the strength of building a structurally, in order to build a box strong and to have dovetails, the grain of this side piece, if you think of a drawer, this is kind of like a drawer turned on its side.
Right.
So if you had the grain of this piece going this way, it would be extremely weak dovetail tails here. The grain right here, they would just kind of like be able to break off real easy. It's strong. You always end grain going into end grain for that pulling strength. Now this isn't really structural or anything like that. And that was one kind of thing that kind of bummed me out a little bit. I couldn't continue my grain all the way around. But in order to kind of make this box the right way, the grain needed to go continuously around it. And in order to do that, I had to have vertical grain right there. I wish I could show you better. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it was really clear that you really tried on the grain on the front.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, why didn't you do that on the side? I understand.
Yeah. I might have been able to come up with something, but I can't think of it.
Well, thank you so much, Lau, for joining us.
Yeah, I'm honored. Thank you.
Carmignani.
Good job.
Was that
nice?
It? Hey,
that's the best first try I've ever seen.
Yes, nailed it. All right, thank you, Lau, so much. We're gonna take you off, and we got one more. Looks like we got one more here. Now these, if you guys are watching and you're wondering how these guys are getting on here, these are members of the Makers Mob. I put it out to the community if anyone had questions, and these guys jumped up to the opportunity. So it's just another bonus of being in the mob. So
I would love to answer some of the questions on the YouTube. I see a lot of you guys' questions.
I saw one. Annie was saying this doesn't seem like it's live. Annie, this is live. Can you confirm, Chris? Is this live?
Yes, it
it's live.
Seems to be live.
Seems to be. Okay, last Makers Mob member is Nathan Fott. Nathan, welcome here.
Hello, everybody.
Hey Nathan.
Hey, Cam or Chris. I wanted to say thanks for coming on and joining the mob. Really enjoyed watching your stuff over the years.
I appreciate it.
The one big question, curiosity thing I had in my mind is your shop build. I know you just moved into a new shop and you're still probably trying to get it all set up and finagle. Do you have any tips or thoughts of like someone who is about to move and start setting up a whole shop from scratch? I have a current shop, basically a 1.5 car garage that is a full shop and everything's just so squeezed in here. But I'm trying to really think about future shop layout.
What are kind of your passions? Are you a hand tool guy, and are you more a hybrid
I would say hybrid. I enjoy hand planes for my own personal projects. And I'm still like in that learning phase. I wouldn't say I'm proficient on it, but I've learned a lot over the years. But then again, I'm also doing a lot of commissions, so I'm having to pump stuff out. So gotcha. I do a lot of commission work and then personal projects when I can squeeze them in. And so I do wood turning, hand cut joinery, almost everything. I'm working on some epoxy work stuff now. I have a big bar build that I'm resting on here, so you can see how this takes up a huge place.
You got a true working shop.
Yes.
Yeah. I would say, one of my biggest things, the tool wall and the hand tool section, it actually a relatively small spot, and it's not straight up for just ornamental behind me, the tool wall. I love the way it looks. It really is inspiring looking at those things. But honestly, having everything really like organized and easily accessible on a wall, I think is really, really beneficial. And I don't know how much you use hand tools right now for a lot of your commission stuff, but if you're doing a lot of one-off stuff, I find in a lot of cases that I can do things a lot faster with just hand tools than setting jigs. Because a lot of things you got to be like real precise with and set jigs up, like that spline jig. And if you don't have a jig, you got to make the jig for just 4 sets of legs or a couple. Whereas I can take my tools to the piece of wood. Plus, there's that whole thing. If you're working on big things, you can take your tools to that rather than finagle big pieces of wood. But I've watched a lot of people's videos on setting up shops, and I'm not a great example of thinking out flow and all that kind of thing. And I hear a lot of guys talk about, they want this really, really good workflow. And it just doesn't really make as much sense for me because I'm not putting through like 10,000 I'm not milling 10,000 board feet of lumber every week where I need it to be like really efficiently going from station to station around. Doesn't really bother me that much. So I don't know. I'm not the best at it. I just kind of willy-nilly threw things where they best fit, kind of. And I'm not, well, I guess here's a piece of advice. Don't put your dust collection in right away. Maybe wait, like get a little, I have a little mobile dust collection system, and I'm just moving it around. And as I get the tools that I want, which I still don't have, and as I figure out the layout, how it feels a little bit, then I can pipe in my dust collection. I think that's a good tip, not to just pull the trigger on that right away.
Okay. And
So
for dust collection, what style of piping are you using? Are you using metal piping or PVC?
I'll probably use PVC. I don't have any yet. Like I still just have my own.
You're still working on that
thing. I just wheel it around like a hobo from shop station to station, and I'll probably do PVC. Yeah, when it's all done.
Oh, he dropped off.
Bummer.
Bye, Nathan.
Bye, Nathan.
He's gone.
Yeah.
Nathan, thanks for joining us. Maybe his phone died or something. Not sure. Third Coast Hobo. That's it.
Third Coast Hobo. Yeah.
There you go. Before we go to the comments Q&A, do you mind if I do the quick announcements?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I can finally show off my slide that I accidentally showed off a couple times. I just have a couple announcements for people who are members of the Makers Mob, and if you're not, you can get a little glimpse at what's coming up and going on inside. We have every month we do a project of the month contest where you can submit your work that you did that month. And this month we're going to be giving away this 20-ounce mallet and a 1/2-inch chisel for the winner of the prize this month. So if you're a member, you can get your project submitted by the end of the month. We'll be putting up that post, the submission post, in this next week. So have that to look forward to. The most recent projects on the site are the Samurai wall-mounted bookshelf, the modern dresser from John Peters, and John Heise's workbench that he built, which was a pretty cool project as well. Those are all on the site with plans and tutorials to go with them, as well as any live replays that we do for members only are always archived on the site, so you can see those. Coming up, we've got next week, we're actually going to be going live in the similar way that we're doing it this week. We're going to keep it open to the public next week. And I'm going to be going live with the Samurai Carpenter and Liam Hoffman, and we're gonna dive into some blacksmith conversations, and that's going to be fun. So that's next Thursday, and you can see that on the Makers Mob YouTube channel, on Liam Hoffman's YouTube channel, or on the Samurai Carpenter. So you can find that next Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, and then the following week, I'm going to be going live with Jimmy DiResta. This is also going to be a public live. And then following after that, we'll be doing members only lives. So you can get in on this one. This will also be on the Makers Mob YouTube channel and Jimmy DiResta's. So that's what's coming up, as well as the Kamiko Challenge, which we already told you about. If you didn't see it at the beginning, there's a link in the description. You can sign up to the Makers Mob and get in on this. It's coming up in the next month, and there's a discount for you in that link. So. That is, I believe, all my announcements. Let's get to some more questions for Chris. If anyone has a question for Chris, throw it in the chat. If you see one, Chris, let me know. I can pop it up on screen.
You're talking about even the YouTube ones as well?
Yeah, it's the ones that I'm seeing in this program here. So
yeah, maybe the ones on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
I could just scroll through and we'll do like fast. I won't rabble on as much as I normally do. Let's do
it.
All right, coming on down. I'm honored, everybody, that you guys showed up, and it means a lot to me. Let's see.
I can throw one at you. Oots.
Sure.
Oots.
Where's he at? Who's he? Hey.
That's awesome.
Shop down. Yep. He's around. He'd rather not be down here. I forced him down here. He'd rather be following the kids around, trying to get all the food droppings everywhere. Oh, another, I guess, big announcement is we're due to have our third kid, and no one ever, I haven't announced that to anywhere on social media or anything like that.
Third kid.
Yeah, third kid for Third Coast.
Welcome to the Third Kid Club.
I wonder why you look so
tired
and tired all the time.
Yeah, 3 kids. You know what's something funny about kids? So your kids are what age again?
Gonna be really close to 4, 2, and not born yet.
Yeah. So my oldest is 13, and then I have an 11-year-old, and then I have an 8-year-old. And you know what the 8-year-old said to me the other day? This is yesterday. He says, "Dad,"
nervous.
He says, "Dad, you're really cool for your age." I was like, "Hold on."
Yeah.
Let's go back a second. For your age? He's like, "Yeah, for your age, Dad." I'm like, "Oh,
yeah,
man, I'm not cool anymore." Kids.
I know. I've already given that up too. Oliver Woodcraft, he's a friend of mine. He came down and helped start me on my, which is over there in the corner. I am going to be working on that as soon as I can. Hopefully here pretty soon. I'm going to start jumping in, getting that thing going. Someone asked about if there's going to be a video on the chicken coop. Yes, and plans. My main man Jeff there, he's going to be doing that. And then how far away am I on the timber frame? Probably next spring. We're gonna do that. I would like to maybe do a 24 by 24 timber frame this year still, and I'm gonna be doing a timber frame lean-to to the side of the barn and some timber frame like eyebrows over the front door and the garage door, which will look really nice. But the house won't be till next year, God willing. All right, coming on down.
We've got. Let's see here. We got new comments coming in.
Oh boy.
There was someone just asking essentially the same thing. Casual builds. How was the timber framing class in Maine?
It was awesome. Great people, Shelter Institute out there. They're the ones that are engineering and designing my frame as well. And really professional, really cool people. It was an awesome experience. And I'm going back in July for a 2-week long, it's called the Design Build class. And it's just 2 weeks of classwork where it's everything from how to properly design driveways and types of insulation and types of windows and insulating factors and that and roofing materials and like literally a kind of a crash course, be your own contractor type of class. A lot of the stuff I'm pretty familiar with, but it's all like tailored towards timber framing and everything. So I'm really looking forward to learning a lot about that kind of stuff. So it's honestly very scary and overwhelming too, this kind of coming down the pipeline. Hopefully I can make it happen.
We're
planning on doing classes for that. So we'll probably have like 30 to 40 people be able to sign up for the class, and they'll come, and it's a week-long class on learning how to timber frame, and you can take that information and go build your own timber frame with it later on. So that's going to be a really cool kind of way to make that happen.
It's I did with the Samurai Carpenter. We did that a couple years ago. It was super fun. So if you guys have an opportunity to go out to Chris's place for that, make sure you guys do, because it's just getting together with like-minded people.
Yeah,
who are all wanting to learn. It's a blast.
And I was thinking about maybe inviting 2 or 3 of my fellow friend YouTuber influencers and try to like really just make it a really cool event to not only learn that, but just hang out and have just an awesome time. The property's really fun. We can go fishing and all sorts of good times.
Yeah. Make sure you leave enough time for fun on the schedule and don't put too much on because it can be a lot of work too, depending on what you try and tackle for that period, right?
No kidding. It's going to be a lot. Someone asked about if my router plane and if I have a build video on that, but no, sorry, Kevin, I don't. I should do one someday. It's right there, that little guy. It's a really cool plane. I actually found plans online for that. Somebody had a really easy little one-page kind of plan on making something like that. And that was something I built way back in the day, and really cool little tool.
Hey, Chris, I had 4 people lined up to ask your question on screen, and the 4th just showed up.
Oh, hey.
So I'm going to pull him on. Benjamin, I'm going to pull you on screen. You ready? Here we go. Benjamin,
hey guys.
what's up? What's up?
Hey.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Doing
too.
Good.
You got a question. So Benjamin's
yeah.
in the Makers Mob group as well, and yeah, hit him with your question.
Well, I wanted to say at first, I really like your jewelry box. It's beautiful. I love white. I've always loved white oak, and the guy I buy my wood from, he doesn't seem to share the appreciation for it. So it's really nice. He really doesn't. I don't know. He says white oak is not popular, but I love the dark walnut and the white oak contrast. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm actually working on a jewelry box right now myself. But I have questions concerning YouTube, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
If that's okay. Okay.
Sure.
Because actually, I just started a YouTube channel, and I'm just curious if it's worth it. Like, is it worth going down the YouTube route? Because I started a woodworking business like 2 months ago. I worked in construction with my family before, and that's kind of coming to a stalling point. But I'm just curious, like, it's really difficult to charge in woodworking if you want to do like really fine work.
Mm-hmm.
And the internet seems to be like the best path, you know, to like, you know, make a living doing like what you love. You know, if you go and make something artsy, for the word, it takes forever to do. You know, it's like it can take you like a full week. How do you charge a full week? So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna pursue the YouTube route, and I'm just curious if it's worth it.
I would say absolutely, if you can make it happen. And you know, it's a challenging thing for me in my YouTube journey. I worked at it for pretty much a full year, about full time, while doing my regular full-time job. And for a lot of people, there's a lot of amazing musicians out there. There's a lot of amazing woodworkers that try doing channels. I don't know what's the rhyme or reason and how I got so lucky and blessed to have been able to make a career out of it and get to the point that I am. But I personally feel very fortunate being able to make YouTube videos, because I'm not really beholden to customers or have to deal with customers and having to charge. And I get to really be creative and choose whatever I want to do each week. There's definitely caveats to that, though. You have to be like, you know, super self-motivated, which I'm not. You know, that's why I've only had like a video every 6 months about the last year or so. Just no bueno when you're trying to make a living being a YouTube content creator. And you know, that kind of thing can dry up really quick. Like if YouTube goes away tomorrow, you try to be diverse. And, you know, I have a website and I sell plans, and starting to work with Makers Mob and different things like that to try to diversify and really make catchfalls for yourself. But if something like that happens and you don't keep up with the times, there's so many different new things coming, like TikTok and all these things, like try to keep your finger on it. It's really challenging, and it's very scary because, again, things can kind of go away really quick. Whereas if you build an actual furniture business or something, it's going to be, you know, probably thin pickings for a long time. Guys like George Nakashima, you know, he wasn't selling $100,000 tables back when he was making them. They're worth it now, but he probably lived very frugally for a long time. And a lot of really known woodworkers, or even if you're just local and doing that kind of thing. I don't have a ton of knowledge on how to grow a local business. I know Facebook Marketplace and doing ads is really good on Facebook, because you can reach people locally to you. Whereas me, I'm global, and so I'm not trying to reach people here. It's a hard thing. The one thing to make it happen is you got to commit to it. And a lot of people try it, and in this day and age, they want instant gratification. And if it doesn't happen in a month or a couple of months, they kind of give up. But it takes a long time of sucking at it, and you start to learn what ends up working. When I was so naive when I started my channel. I'm a fan of, or not so much anymore. I used to be a Wrangler star.
Yeah.
And he had some cool, like, you know, fixing up tools and being a manly man kind of videos around the farm. And I was like, oh, he did this video on squaring up a square, and my squares have been really crappy, so I'm going to square my square up and make a video on it. And I was like, oh, his video's got 500,000 views. Like, this is good. And it was a rude awakening. So, yeah, I don't know. It's long-winded. It's something that I could go talk to you a long time about. It's just, each person's going to be a different journey. It can be worth it, and you just got to be smart about it. There's some people that are really, really good YouTubers, but just as broke as everybody else because they're not smart about things.
Okay. How does that work?
Well, if they're only relying on ad revenue, and ad revenue's not good, and they're not, you know, diversifying income in other ways, and
you mean like doing merchandise or like providing
things like that,
or
exactly, things like that, having a website and trying to drive people to your website where you also can sell things. And you know, there's a lot of things, and it's just, you got to learn that part of the world too. So woodworking to me is the natural part that I enjoy. Creating videos, learning how to do audio, creating a website, building a website from scratch, all that stuff I've done myself and had to learn how to do it because that wasn't what's natural to me.
Right.
Woodworking is my kind of primary thing. There's a lot of really successful maker woodworking YouTube channels that those guys are really good marketers and really good. They were in film before, like videography. They picked up woodworking as a hobby, and they were able to create an awesome channel, just like so. There's kind of, I'm the opposite route. I kind of suck at that other stuff and better at woodworking.
That's okay, but
I talked too long. I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, not at all. I could honestly, this is a really long conversation, but I mean, I'm just because I mean, you have, like you said, you have to be self-motivated. I'm an extremely self-motivated person. I've been doing woodworking maybe for 5 or 6 years, and I really, really enjoy it. But like, if you, because you know, you hear about YouTube algorithm, all this nonsense, whatever. Maybe it's not nonsense, but like posting frequently, like once a week, once every 2. Because I mean, even doing a woodworking project is difficult. To put one out every like 3 days, you know, it's like that would be insane. You have to have your own editor, you know, you can't do that right at the beginning. So like posting every 2 weeks, because I actually started my YouTube channel like last year, and I just like totally didn't work on it at all. Like I put up 2 videos. I had a name that was like, you know, washed up in the mud. You couldn't find it at all. So then I relaunched it again with a different name this year. But I just don't know if like posting every 2 weeks is like, will that change things? Or do you have to be authentic? Do you have to be unique? Like what?
Yeah, definitely
personable.
Yeah.
Funny, like things that will help. I don't know. Just.
Well, you can accomplish it. I'll try to be real quick. You can accomplish that in all of those different ways. I know Jimmy DeRista for many, many years never was on camera, never was a presence, and made it huge. But
it's true.
Was incredibly cool and creative. Other people are really charismatic. They also are really creative. You get a guy like Alex Steele who's super personable.
Yes.
Charismatic, and you got a dynamite thing. But you don't have to have that combo. I'm a great example. It's kind of shooting me in the foot now, but I'm a great example of not putting stuff out all the time and doing very well at times in certain videos. I'll go months without posting a video. And then if I put out something really, really good, it's going to do, you know, you hear this thing, content is king. So if you're making something beautiful, put some good time into making the video a good video, some good audio edit, spend some time. The video is as much of a product as whatever you make is. And even if you're not doing it every week or every other week, it still has a good potential to do good. It might not be woodworking videos. It's hard to have like, you know, viral 10 million videos.
Definitely.
But another tactic real quick, and something that I should do that I need to get to, is you don't have to do a woodworking project every week or every other week. You can squeeze in like maybe a tip and trick type of video. That's kind of a way to keep the algorithm going. But again, this is what I know I should be doing and what I don't do. But hopefully you and I will get on track together.
Yeah. There you go.
Ben, if you can also connect with us on in the Makers Mob, and if you have any other questions and stuff. I mean, I've been along for the ride with the Samurai Carpenter's journey as well, and kind of watched that unfold. So
I got to meet that guy one day.
Hey, one day.
I want to meet that guy one day. I seriously, I subscribe. I started watching his videos like 5 or 6 years ago. So yeah, it's really awesome.
Thanks for bringing your question. Reach out to me in the Facebook group if you have any other questions about YouTube, and we can help you out there. So
yeah, thanks for letting me in.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Thanks,
You're
guys.
welcome.
Nice meeting you.
Yes, nice to meet you too.
Awesome, thanks, Ben. So let's just wrap this up, I guess. I mean, do you want to go on for 2 hours, or what do you want to do?
No. That was pretty good.
It's good. We've got there's a couple more questions.
Yeah, just a couple more, I think.
Someone's asking, do you live in that might have been for you're not in Charlotte. I don't know if they're asking you or if they were asking Ben.
He was probably asking me in Charlotte, Michigan, because
okay.
That's where Johnson's Workbench is.
Gotcha.
Right, lumber. No, I don't. I live. I typically don't.
Yeah, what's your address?
Yeah, I actually have had people show up before at my old place, and it was a little unnerving. I'm really nice and stuff, but I didn't really like it. So, I'm in mid-Michigan area. And come out to the timber framing class, and you'll find out.
Yeah, exactly. One question here. Let's just end with this one, Chris. If you don't mind me asking, who do you typically like to watch on YouTube other than yourself?
Yeah, I watch myself over and over. Man, I have some. Jimmy, obviously, but you can't even everybody. Jimmy DeRisa is amazing and super inspirational. Samurai Carpenter obviously was somebody who was hugely inspiring to me getting into the game and everything. Dang it, I have these names. Like I'm like, I got to remember if anybody ever asked me that.
Do you actually spend time watching YouTube anymore? Or are you just like busy just with doing stuff? I think
not nearly. I watch stupid smut and stuff nowadays. I'll just like pull it up, and the YouTube algorithm will put some stupid garbage in front of my face. I'm like, oh, that looks kind of good. But I used to just consume woodworking YouTube stuff like crazy, and I think that's really good and healthy. And I need to get back to that. I don't want to ever feel like. I don't need to continue to like look and be inspired and find new people and read books. I used to read books all the time too. I really want to get back to that. I'll read a book, and then a year later I'll look at it again. Like, God, I can't believe I forgot that amazing trick in tech and everything. So highly recommend everybody read a lot of woodworking books. They're a whole new dynamic because you can look at the actual pictures of things being explained, and it's very helpful.
Awesome. Well, I think we've
did it.
An hour and 13 minutes and 35 seconds.
I think the YouTube live really added a lot of nice dynamic, and having the people chat. I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us live. Let's say goodbye. You want to say goodbye?
Adios, everyone.
Adios. See you guys later. Thanks for joining us.
See ya.
Make sure you guys check out what we got coming up next week with the Samurai Carpenter, and Liam Hoffman is the next live that we're doing publicly. So we'll see you guys later. Have a good one.